Pam Bondi admitted under oath, on camera, in front of Congress. She maintains a secret list of Americans whom she classifies as domestic threats. He won't say who's on the list. He won't say how someone gets on this list. He won't say how someone gets off this list. And he won't show this list to the only institution tasked with holding him accountable, Congress. But he did name one, Antifa, as if September 2020 is still ongoing. Pennsylvania Representative Mary Gay Scanlan entered the courtroom with a simple question. President Trump's signed executive order tasked you with preparing a domestic threat group list. Did you prepare this list? A yes or no question. What was Bondi's answer? I will not answer this with a yes or no. And so 5 minutes passed, block after block, insult, and finally a confession that confirms the deepest constitutional concerns. This is the story of those 5 minutes. First, it's necessary to understand the context. On September 25, 2025, President Trump signed the National Security Presidential Memorandum, known as NSPM-7, officially titled Addressing Domestic Terrorism. However, the memorandum did not limit its targets solely to acts of terrorism. According to the text of the memorandum, which is a public document, beliefs that are anti-American, anti-Christian, and anti-capitalist were defined as indicators of internal threats. Hostility to traditional American views on family, religion, and morality was targeted. And the third section of the memo directly tasked Bondi. Prepare a list of groups and organizations that fit this definition and present it to President Trump and Stephen Miller. Bondi instructed the FBI in December 2025. The list should be ready by January 2026. Let it be updated every 30 days. The list has been prepared. At this point, the situation took a different turn. Scanlan brought the background into the hearing, saying, "Did you prepare this list?" A yes or no question. Bondi said, "I won't answer that with a yes or no, but I can say that Antifa is part of this list." When Scanlan interrupted, "That means the answer is yes." He continued, "Will you commit to providing this committee with a list of the organizations you propose to be designated as domestic threat groups?" Bondi, "We will comply with the laws in every matter." "Will you commit to providing this list? Yes or no?" Bondi, "I will not commit to anything because you do not allow me to answer my questions." Bondi, "I will not commit to anything because you are not allowing me to answer my questions. But there is a striking detail here." Scanlan said this, "Then we understand. You have a secret list accusing Americans of domestic terrorism, but you won't share it with Congress." Then he made the critical comparison. When the government designates a foreign organization, such as Al-Qaeda or ISD, as a terrorist group, it must inform Congress in advance, share the decision with the public, and grant the organization the right to appeal. In this system, foreign terrorist organizations have more legal protections than American citizens and American civil society organizations. More than American citizens and American civil society organizations. Bondi's response was a single sentence. "You don't need to know about public safety." Scanlan, "Thank you for the insult." Scanlan, "Thank you for the insult."
And that changed the course of the hearing, because Scanlan didn't let it go and concluded his opening statement by saying, "This administration is keeping lists of Americans that the White House says are engaged in domestic terrorism. These lists could include Americans who have committed no acts of terror, but simply disagree with this administration. Your list may not include the Proud Boys or Oath goalkeepers, those actually charged with overthrowing the government." Stop. Americans have never tolerated political demagogues who use the government to punish people with enemy lists. This brought down McCarthy, he brought down Nixon, and he will overthrow this administration too. And it will overthrow this administration too. At this point, one needs to look at the details not visible in the clip, because the background makes the picture much heavier. The first layer is the legal basis. Lawfare, a national security law blog run by former government lawyers,
and national security expert Fauzia Patel at the Brennan Center for Justice explained to PBS. There is no legal authority to designate a domestic group as a threat group in the United States. None. Not available. There is a process for foreign threat organizations, a process that includes congressional notification, public announcement, and the right to appeal, covering groups like Al-Qaeda and ISD. There is no such process for American citizens and American civil society organizations. Bondi is making a list, under authority he does not possess. Second layer, what the memorandum actually aims at. The text of the memorandum is public. To summarize its content briefly: anti-American, anti-Christian, anti-capitalist beliefs, hostility toward traditional American views, family, religion, and morality. One of the country's largest law firms, Arnold & Porter, analyzed the pressure effect created by the memorandum. Result? A serious deterrent effect on the activities of individuals, organizations, and funders perceived by the administration as opposing its policies. What does deterrent effect mean? People refrain from speaking out because they fear being targeted. More than 3,000 civil society organizations signed an open letter against the memorandum. 31 members of Congress wrote a letter expressing their concerns about the legality of the memorandum. Miles Taylor, who served as Deputy Chief of Staff at the Department of Homeland Security during Trump's first term, described the memorandum as deeply troubling. Third layer, deleted research. According to reports by Snopes and The Hill, the Justice Department quietly removed a study from its website in September 2025. The work of the National Institute of Justice, the department's own research unit. A study documenting politically motivated fatal attacks since 1990 had identified more than 200 right-wing attacks and hundreds of deaths. In contrast, about 40 left-wing attacks had been recorded. They did not update the research. They didn't add anything on top. They deleted it. And 2 weeks later, they published NSPM 7, a manifesto claiming that the main threat comes only from the left. The fourth layer was a promise made 13 months ago. In January 2025, Bondi had sworn under oath during his confirmation hearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee, "There will never be an enemy list within the Department of Justice." 13 months have passed. Now he is keeping a secret list. He refuses to share it with Congress, and he tells a congressman, "You don't need to know about public safety." But the crucial point was this: the picture was complete when Scanlan brought up the Proud Boys and the Oath goalkeepers. While the Proud Boys were convicted of attempting to overthrow the government, the Oath goalkeepers were also convicted of the same crime. Their leaders were sentenced to 18 and 22 years in prison, the heaviest sentences given in the investigation of the attack on the entire Capitol. A judge appointed by Trump ruled that their actions amounted to political violence. This administration pardoned all of them on its first day in office, and then it created an internal threat list, excluding groups convicted of attempting to overthrow the government in practice. The question of what the selection criteria are arises spontaneously. Charity and Security Network, a coalition monitoring national security laws affecting nonprofit organizations, documented the following. NSPM 7 tasks the IRS with auditing organizations that the government suspects are even remotely connected to domestic threats. And it involves the Treasury Department using tools to track overseas terrorist financing to follow the funds. So this list is not just a matter of labeling, it has practical consequences. Bank accounts can be frozen. Platforms can deplatform groups. They may do this not because it is a legal obligation, but to protect themselves. The deterrent effect is precisely this.
So what does this mean for you? If you have donated to a civil society organization advocating for immigration reform, climate action, criminal justice reform, or reproductive rights, you might be financing a structure that this administration could consider an internal threat. You can never know whether this organization is on the list, because Bondi doesn't say. If you go to a place of worship that does not align with Stephen Miller's traditional American views, your congregation could end up on a list. You would never know because Bondi doesn't say, and you have no right to appeal in this system because there is no legal process to get on the list. Lawfare's analysis confirmed this.
This executive directive defines the anti-fascist movement as a domestic threat organization. But it has no legal basis. He doesn't reference any of them. It's not an applicable regulation, a political statement. But banks and platforms will process it as if it were real. They will freeze the accounts. He will remove the groups from their services to protect themselves. The deterrent effect is exactly this. Scanlan took this out of the hearing. Bondi admitted to keeping a list under oath. He refused to share it with Congress. He did not say who was on the list. There is no mechanism to appeal the list, and the targeted ideologies are not crimes, but constitutionally protected beliefs. Legal experts describe this as a situation where a list containing political dissidents has been labeled with a national security tag. And this story doesn't end with just one hearing, because the list is updated every 30 days. Scanlan's historical warning came in the last sentence. Americans have never tolerated political demagogues who use the government to punish people on an enemies list. This brought down McCarthy. He overthrew Nixon. McCarthy era. Thousands of Americans were targeted with secret lists, labeled as a communist. Without the right to prove, McCarthy eventually faced his own methods. In Watergate, Nixon had weaponized federal agencies to target political enemies, and this ultimately led to his downfall. In both cases, the destruction came from the systematic abuse of power, from secret lists, due to the absence of an objection process. Here is the complete table. Bondi admitted under oath that she kept a secret list. The alleged authority, which is claimed to be legal, is not recognized by national security experts. The list targets not just acts of violence, but also constitutionally protected beliefs. Congress requests the list. Bondi refuses. There is no appeals mechanism, and the list expands every 30 days. This is not evidence, but every piece in this table is public, verifiable, in the records. And the only missing thing is this: accountability.